What if Cain's greatest fear wasn't divine punishment, but running into the very people who weren't supposed to exist? What if the Bible accidentally preserved evidence of a parallel humanity that religious institutions have spent centuries trying to erase? Tonight, we uncover the most dangerous secret hidden in the story of history's first murderer. The murder of Abel should have left Cain alone on an empty planet. According to traditional interpretation, only 4 humans existed: Adam, Eve, Cain, and the now dead Abel. Yet when God pronounces judgment, Cain's response reveals something that shatters this entire narrative. In Genesis 4:14, he cries out in terror, "Anyone who finds me will kill me." Anyone who finds him? On a planet with supposedly 3 people? But here's where the Hebrew text becomes explosive. God's response isn't to correct Cain's apparent confusion. Instead, in Genesis 4:15, God places a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should strike him down. The Hebrew word matzah, finding, doesn't mean stumbling across someone accidentally. It means seeking out, hunting, deliberately searching for prey. God isn't protecting Cain from wild animals. He's protecting him from organized human retaliation. The text then delivers the most revealing line in early Genesis. So Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife. His wife. Where exactly did she come from? The Hebrew offers no explanation, no introduction, no origin story. She simply exists, as if the text assumes readers already know about these other people. This isn't a narrative oversight. It's evidence of a deliberately edited history. The Hebrew word nod means wandering or exile, but it also carries the meaning of dwelling place of the separated ones. This wasn't empty wilderness. It was a populated region inhabited by people who existed completely outside the Adamic line. When the text casually mentions that Cain knew his wife, it's not describing a miracle. It's describing what happens when someone from one population encounters another. Picture this scene as the Hebrew text actually describes it. Cain, marked and exiled, travels eastward beyond the boundaries of Eden. He's not wandering into uninhabited wasteland. He's approaching the territories of established human communities. These aren't primitive hunter-gatherers. Genesis 4:17 tells us that Cain immediately begins building a city. You don't build cities alone. You build them with existing populations, established labor forces, organized societies. The Hebrew word banah, build, in this context means to establish or organize, not to construct from nothing. Cain wasn't creating civilization. He was integrating with it. The city he built was named after his son, Enoch, but the text implies this was a renaming of an existing settlement. The infrastructure, the knowledge, the social organization, it was already there. But here's the most disturbing implication. If these other humans existed, if they had their own societies and cities, then what exactly made Adam and Eve special? Why were they singled out for life in the garden while countless others remained outside? The answer lies in the Hebrew word asah, to make or fashion for a specific purpose. Adam wasn't the first human. He was the first human selected for genetic modification. Eve wasn't the first woman. She was the first woman artificially constructed from modified genetic material. The garden wasn't paradise for all humanity. It was a laboratory for a specific bloodline. And when that experiment produced violence, when Cain killed Abel, the consequences extended far beyond the garden's walls. The Mesopotamian tablets paint an eerily similar picture. The Sumerian king list describes multiple human populations existing simultaneously, some created by the gods, others existing independently. The Akkadian texts speak of the black-headed people, the Sumerians' term for themselves, coexisting with other human groups they called the red people and the white people. These weren't racial distinctions. They were genetic classifications. The Epic of Gilgamesh describes Enkidu being brought from the wild lands to civilization, but the text assumes readers know about the different human populations scattered across the region. The Babylonian creation myths speak of humanity being divided into different bloodlines, some enhanced by divine intervention, others left in their original state. These weren't mythologies. They were historical records of genetic manipulation and population control. What the Hebrew scribes preserved, perhaps unknowingly, was evidence of a world where multiple human species coexisted. The Adamic line, genetically modified, enhanced, given special knowledge and abilities, was just one branch of humanity. The others, the pre-Adamites, continued existing in their own territories, with their own societies, their own development paths. This explains why Cain feared retaliation. He wasn't just a murderer. He was a genetic hybrid carrying the bloodline of the Elohim, entering territories populated by unmodified humans. His crime wasn't just fratricide, it was the first act of violence committed by the enhanced bloodline against itself. And the other human populations knew what that meant. The mark God placed on Cain wasn't protection from divine wrath. It was a genetic marker, a biological signature that would identify him to other populations as belonging to the modified bloodline. The Hebrew word oth, mark, is the same word used for signs, symbols, and identifying characteristics. This wasn't a tattoo or scar. It was a genetic modification that would be visible to those who knew how to recognize it. But here's what's truly chilling. The text suggests this wasn't the first time violence had erupted between the bloodlines. In Genesis 4:23, Cain's descendant Lamech boasts, "I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me." The Hebrew tense suggests ongoing conflict, systematic violence, organized warfare between different human populations. The pre-Adamites weren't just innocent bystanders. They were active participants in a genetic war that had been raging long before Abel's murder. Cain's exile wasn't punishment for a single crime. It was the removal of a volatile element from an already unstable situation. The garden wasn't just a laboratory, it was a quarantine zone designed to keep the modified bloodline separated from the original human populations. If this interpretation is correct, then everything we've been taught about human origins is a carefully constructed deception. We're not descended from the first humans. We are the products of genetic warfare between multiple human species, most of which were systematically eliminated or absorbed. The Adamic bloodline didn't inherit the earth through divine blessing. It conquered it through superior technology and genetic enhancement. The implications are staggering. If pre-Adamite humans existed, if they had their own civilizations and cultures, then what happened to them? The answer may lie in the flood narrative, which describes the systematic destruction of all human life except for Noah's family. But Noah wasn't saving humanity from divine judgment. He was completing a genetic consolidation program that had been in progress for generations. The Hebrew word mabul, flood, doesn't just mean water. It means overwhelming destruction, systematic elimination, complete erasure. The flood wasn't a natural disaster. It was the final phase of a genetic cleansing operation designed to eliminate all human populations except the modified Adamic bloodline. But some survived. The Nephilim, the giants, the mysterious peoples who appeared after the flood. They weren't new creations. They were remnants of the pre-Adamite populations, driven underground, forced to adapt, waiting for their chance to reclaim what had been taken from them. The story of Cain isn't just about the first murder. It's about the first contact between genetically modified humans and the original human species. It's about the beginning of a war that has been raging for millennia, hidden beneath layers of religious interpretation and historical revision. And if you think this sounds impossible, consider this. Modern genetic research has identified mysterious DNA sequences in human populations that don't match any known evolutionary timeline. Sequences that appear to have been artificially inserted. Sequences that suggest our ancestors weren't just shaped by natural selection, but by deliberate genetic manipulation. The mark of Cain wasn't removed when he died. It was passed down through his bloodline, carried in the DNA of his descendants, preserved in the genetic code of everyone who carries the modified human genome. Which means, if you're watching this, if you're human, you're carrying the mark. The question isn't whether the pre-Adamites existed. The question is whether any of their unmodified descendants are still out there, waiting in the shadows, remembering what was done to their ancestors. Because if they are, then Cain's greatest fear wasn't divine punishment. It was the knowledge that someday, somewhere, the original humans would find him. And when they do, they won't be offering forgiveness. Next time, we'll explore the most dangerous secret hidden in the Garden of Eden. The tree of life wasn't a plant, it was a machine, and the Elohim didn't destroy it when they exiled Adam and Eve. They moved it. The question is, where did they put it, and who controls it now?